We rolling.
Hello, Tia. How are you today?
Oh, I am well.
Well?
I am doing
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm gonna do all of that.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to get us started.
Okay.
Okay, yes. Please, do you want a government name or you want a stage name?
Stage name is good.
Thank God.
Because I bet you a government name is different from a stage name.
You best believe it is.
I'm just playing. But that's the way it goes in our world. So Tia, please say and spell your name.
Tia Carroll, TIA CARROLL.
Tia,
Yes.
it's so good to see you here at the 22nd Just Blues Music Awards.
And I want to thank you so much for having me. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here around my peoples. Thank you.
So what does it mean to you to be receiving the Denise LaSalle's award?
Oh man, first of all, I met Denise LaSalle, I don't know, like probably about 15 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And she and I hit it off really well, you know, and she was needing some help with some of her social media stuff at that time and emails and stuff, and I was helping her, and I was talking to her grandkids in the background and stuff. It was really cool to meet her and be part of her world. And now here it is years later, and I'm receiving an award with, you know, that's named after her. And it's just like, wow, big world, big music.
Yes, Denise was a very big fan of Just Blues and did a lot to make sure that this organization thrived and be necessary for artists like you.
Yes, well, God bless her soul, but she did it. She did it, and I
So
appreciate
now,
it.
you are a lot of blues artists that people think that just from the South and stuff like that, but you actually live in California.
Yes, born and raised in happy California.
What part of California are you?
I am in Northern California. I'm about 15 minutes away from San Francisco on a no traffic day, 3 hours on a traffic day. But yeah, born and raised in California, and
So when you say northern, is that somewhere near Richmond or something like that?
it is. It is.
Because there's a lot of artists that come out of that area, blues artists, that people like in the South and on the East Coast don't know about.
Right.
So
right.
tell me what that world was like, and what were your humble beginnings as far as getting started singing the blues? And who influenced you? I know I'm asking a lot all at one time, but you know where I'm coming from.
Well, let's see. It began. So I was born and raised in Parkchester Village, which is in Richmond, California, and all hail Richmond, because we do have some great folks coming out of Richmond. I sang all the time. I mean, just from a small child. I didn't know I could sing. I didn't really care if anybody liked it, and I loved to sing, so I sang all the time. So if, as a little girl, if someone rang the doorbell, I knew in the back of my mind it was for my parents. You know, company's coming, they must be coming to see me sing. I'd hightail it in the bedroom, throw on a dress right quick, hightail it back out to the living room. La, 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 la. My mother's like, please go mind your own business. None of your business is in here. So, you know, I always sang, always sang. I came across some of my old high school friends that said, girl, you used to sing hanging out the window of the house. Your mama wouldn't let you go outside and be bad. And it was always us, you know, listening to you singing. I'd be singing in the hallways at the school. Now, professionally or in any organization, no, never. Not until, I don't know, it was like 1982, my first husband told me that, you know, you have a really nice voice. You should probably be singing somewhere. I was like, really? You think so? Well, okay. So at the time I was working at a company, Granny Goose Foods. They made potato chips. And I was doing accounting, been doing accounting for I don't know how many years. There was a guy that had a band there. Asked him if I could audition for his band. He's like, what do I have to lose? Sure. So I auditioned for the band, and the band was like, "Oh, can we keep her?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I stayed with that band. It was an old time rock and roll band, like it was called Yakety Yak. So they did like 50s and 60s music. I stayed with that band for about 5 or 6 years, and then I started branching off, kind of doing my own thing, just kind of learning myself, learning my style, honing my style. I mean, for the longest time, I just sang with everything on the radio. And in our neighborhood, in our area, they played everything on the radio. There weren't, it was a little bit segregated. There was the black station with all the soul and blues and gospel, and then the white station with all the pop and rock and metal and all that kind of stuff. And I sang along with everything. So my style came about from singing with everyone, singing everything on the radio. After I started doing my own thing, I kind of found my own voice and my own style, and I'm not quite sure still what that is, other than it's just plain Tia Carroll. And you know, today I've been blessed to be able to my voice has taken me, thank you Jesus, my voice has taken me to all different places around the world, and sometimes I even get to take my band, which is really awesome. I love it when I get to take my own band, because they work just as hard as I do, you know, and I feel like they deserve the accolades as well, because, I mean, yeah, I can stand there and sing by myself, and I will, but I don't need to.
You just recently did a tour somewhere in the outer country, right?
Yes, I was in Brazil about a week ago. That was my second trip this year. I went earlier last month as well. And we did some festivals out there, and they're just kind of like, again, opening up the country for outdoor, you know, big events, as opposed to just shutting down everything. So those are some huge events. Last week I sang with the Porto Alegre Symphony Orchestra. Never done that before. It was an amazing experience, amazing. Absolutely fell in love with the violin section. It was about a 50-piece orchestra, and they actually did one of my songs from my CD. So we did some, you know, we did At Last and Fever and What a Difference a Day Makes, and then we did Stand By Me, and we did Ain't Nobody Worrying in Brazil, where not that many people speak English, but they truly enjoyed the song. I want to say most of them understand most of it, but as far as the older music, they sing along in English. They know the song in English. So blues has a huge influence on a lot of different countries, definitely South America. There's a lot of blues in South America.
That's interesting, because you know, artists like yourself, you know, that's known out internationally in other parts of the world, and very much appreciated. And seem like here in America, where it all comes from, and was founded and invented and originated by folks of color, black folks, and but we don't get opportunity to be on some of the big festivals.
Right.
Have you had that experience?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Well, what do you think seems to be the problem with that?
Yeah, I guess I could call it a catch-22. Our name isn't big enough, and it won't be big enough until it gets big enough, and it can't get big enough until we get on some of those big stages. And we can't get on those big stages because our name's not big enough. That's a horrible loop, but it's one that a lot of our artists are just continually going through. I feel like you know, it might be helpful if some of the bigger names could reach out to some of the quote-unquote smaller names and, you know, bring them out for a song. Just let them be exposed to what they're exposed to all the time. It's a domino effect. I feel like if some of the bigger name artists would bring up some of the smaller name artists, some of the smaller name artists can bring up even some of the smaller name artists, and eventually this machine will work. It will be well oiled, and it'll show talent from all over the place as
And
opposed
what
to.
you're saying right now makes a lot of sense, but, the problem is, that, you know, artists we're in an artist-driven business. It's not really so much the promoter.
Mhm.
The promoter try to follow who they think is
Is gonna
popular at the
feel
time.
good. Yeah.
Artists, I think they're, I don't wanna say their ego, but, you know, artists like they're kinda working for themselves
Mhm.
in the business, and, they're trying to get work too, so it's kinda hard to get them to,
To
share the spotlight, so
Yeah.
to speak, you know. But I think that, like, and I don't wanna say lesser artists, but I think some of the artists who are not so well known, and I think we had this conversation earlier a bit about the education of what's going on,
Mhm.
and figure out how to start packaging themselves and creating their own business, and giving themselves that platform where they can. But what do you think about that theory?
You know, I have about, when I look back, there's about 7 CDs that I've done from like mid-90s, late 90s until today. And for those 6 CDs, I did everything myself. My husband helped them, you know, a bit as well, promoting and marketing and getting, you know, booking ourselves and finding places to be booked and driving out to places, you know, just on a whim that, you know, I know this place has music and we're gonna show up here with some CDs and this, that, and the other and hope to get booked. This last CD was on a label called Little Village, which is a 501(c), which is a wonderful thing. So basically, they take care of that whole thing. They take care of all of the promotions and the marketing, and they take care of the production of the CD and the musicians. And all I had to do was come up with some songs, come in there and sing, and now a bunch of doors are open. It would be a wonderful thing if we would have more organizations like that can pluck some of these obscure artists that are just as great as anybody else, and give them the opportunity that people who have that money can just do at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
So it would just be, we just need more organizations that are geared towards the artist as opposed to towards the money machine.
Right, and like I said, that's why I said, I know that, like, promoters, they looking at the money part of it.
Because they have
Artists
to fill
looking at
seats.
the money part too, but they can't turn around and pay themselves.
Right.
And, but like, so, get off that a little bit. I'm gonna finish up by talking about some of the artists that I know that were on the West Coast that was important, like Jimmy McCracklin, Percy Mayfields, even, you know, it's just all kind of characters that was in the Bay Area that kind of stood out, even Fillmore Slim.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Barbara Morrison was one of the people that we were gonna honor here, and I found out since her passing that she actually come out of the Richmond area. So, just briefly, just tell me a little bit about the exposure that you might have had to some of those artists. Especially Jimmy McCracklin.
Yes, Jimmy McCracklin. My very first time out of the United States was with Jimmy McCracklin. I met his daughter. She was working at the same place I was working at.
Right.
And some kind of way around the water cooler at the office, we're chit-chatting and talking music, and she tells me about her father. I didn't know anything about him. But then again, back then, I didn't know anything about blues. I didn't even know I could sing. That was, you know, in that same time frame. But he's the one that first gave me a break to you know, to be out of the United States and sing somewhere. I thought, wow, this can be done. This is awesome.
Right.
You know, so I've got
And-
nothing but love and respect.
And see, and that going back to like we were just saying about artists bringing artists up, those are the type of people that just not, that we don't have now.
Yes.
Artists that understand that, you know, that's all Willie Dixon was a musician that appreciated artists, you know.
Yeah.
And I think until we get back to that point again, it's gonna be that way for artists, to be exposed and make them feel like that they make sense. Because I know artists feel like that they don't make a lot of sense when they're not included on these big festivals that's got the name blues on them, but we're not represented there.
Yeah.
So, but again, you know, I'm gonna wrap it up because I really want to appreciate you being here. And you've been to Just Blues before, right?
Yes.
When we were on Beale Street.
Yes.
At the
Daisy.
historical Daisy Theater.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you've got history with Just Blues, and
I sure
Denise
do.
was there at that time. And
Yes. And I remember Karen Wolf was.
Karen Wolf,
Denise had pretty much taken Karen Wolf under her wing.
right,
And that's another artist who brought somebody else up.
right,
And Karen Wolf is doing great.
right.
You know, she's
And-
doing great for herself, and I'm.
And I
couldn't be more
also
happy.
want to end up, because this award, even though we're presenting it to you, it is about Denise.
Yes.
And I want to say that Denise was an artist, that somebody, like you said, you made your first record. Denise was more than just an artist in the business. Denise was an artist, record company owner, writer, publisher. She wrote the first big hit for ZZ Hill.
Wow. See, I
Stepping
didn't
in,
even know about
stepping out.
that.
And-
Wow.
And she had Bill Corday. She wrote with Lattimore. She wrote with a lot of popular people. She was a writer. They said Denise was the type of woman she would write songs down on a paper bag, napkin, wherever she was at. But like I said, more than anything, she was a businesswoman in our music, and she was one that helped other artists.
Yes.
She wasn't selfish in the fact that it was just about her. She wasn't intimidated by artists. And I think
Yes.
that's what's happening now, is that like we're missing something now because we don't have artists like that around.
Mhm.
There are some, there are a few, but how do you get to them? And so
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being here.
I truly appreciate you having me. Thank you so much. Thank you for the recognition. Thank you for this organization, because you guys are doing some great things with blues, keeping it blues, keeping it just blues.
We're gonna end on that.
Good job. Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
This thing. I'm Jim Alexander.
Hi.
You're famous, Jim Alexander, at that.
Y'all together.
Oh, I'm in the way?
All right.
Thank you.
Pass me the ball.
Oh, your phone. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hey.
I gotta have